Yeah, so we met each other in 2014, I think.
Yeah.
Some of the first things, I'm not sure who I met you through.
I met you at Stir.
And okay, now that makes sense.
With Thomas.
Yeah, so I was one of the managers there.
Yeah, and I distinctly remember that night because I had just moved to Sherman Oaks, I think a few months before, and I was trying to make friends in the area because I didn't know anybody.
That's wild. You met me through Stir.
I met you. You guys were standing next to me at Stir.
And we're like, yeah, we run this store.
No, you don't. I always have to remind you about this story, but basically there was this guy, Sean, who invited me.
Sean Young.
Yes. Who invited me.
The green-eyed light skin.
Yeah, I'm like, yeah, I'm trying to make friends in the area. He's like, yeah, and you should come to this place called Stir. I was like, yeah, okay. Gave me the address, and then he's like, hey, can you give me a ride? And I was like, okay. So then I give him a ride, and then he was, sorry if Sean ever listens to this.
Ever listens to the 4th episode, the truth, the chronicles.
Yeah, I was like, yeah, sure. So when we get there, he just starts trying to hold my hand, and I was like, yeah, this is not a thing. And
he was trying.
And you guys noticed that I was super uncomfortable. So you guys were like, "Are you okay?" And I was like, "I'm fine." You're like, "Is everything okay?" And I was like, I don't know. And so I think I told you guys what was going on. You're like, "Oh, okay, yeah, that's weird." So then you're like, "Well, you can come hang out with us." And then you and Thomas invited me to hang out at MRG to smoke hookah.
Wow.
So you're like, it's just my art gallery is a couple blocks away. I have this girl I'm dating, with her friend. She's hanging out there. Like, so you guys kind of like saved me from that whole situation.
Wow, we saved. Look, we were saints then, and we're even bigger saints now.
Yeah, you and Thomas are great guys.
Wow,
yeah.
That's awesome.
And that's how our friendship started. And you're like, yeah, I own this art gallery. And I was like, what? You're like 22. What do you mean you own an art gallery?
Yeah,
it was insane.
It's weird because when I talk about the art gallery and I tell people I've been doing this for 15 years, they're like, how?
Yeah.
Because it started before then. I already, had a space upstairs for a good chunk of time.
Yeah. On that note, let's get into that. Who is Michael Goodman, MRG?
Oh, gosh. Michael Richard Goodman.
Richard Goodman.
When I first opened MRG, it was initially capital M, lowercase r, big G.
Oh.
So they would call me Mr. G. That's how it read.
Really?
Yeah. I sometimes cool. I think of switching it back. Like just be like, Mr.
That.
G Fine Art.
Yeah.
So MRG, Michael Richard Goodman, was essentially, I named the gallery that because every gallerist just names it after themselves. I couldn't think of anything clever. I went to, are we doing my whole bio? Some background to give some context. I grew up in Israel.
Okay.
So my kind of formative growing up years was in Israel from like ages. Okay, from I had to do some math there. It must have been like I was born here, raised there.
Okay.
So from like 6 to like 13, I was there. And then we came back to the States. And that's when I started kind of the end of middle school.
Okay.
And started high school here. And in high school, the school I was going to, Los Angeles County High School for the Arts, it was this, I always refer to it as the Juilliard of the West Coast. Because it's like this super artistic school. It's kind of like Harry Potter in the sense that there's different disciplines.
Okay.
There's like the dancers, visual artists, musicians, actors, some pretty noteworthy people like Corbin Bleu went to that school, Kende Wiley, some pretty well-known artists throughout the disciplines have gone there. Josh Groban, I'm not sure if you know who that guy is, but he's like a big singer, like a big deal.
Oh, okay. I'll have to look all of these names up after.
Corbin Bleu, come on, that's from High School Musical.
I'm not into
that
musicals.
Wasn't a thing. But you know Zac Efron.
Yeah.
Okay, so you know Zac Efron.
I know that name.
You don't know Corbin Bleu. I'm just playing with you. So it's a super artistic school, and kind of that's where the whole maturity comes from.
Okay.
I would take like a train. At one point I had to like take the train, go to Union Square. It was like a commute to get
So
there.
where's the school located and where did you live?
It's located in, it was on Cal State LA. We shared the campus with Cal State LA. Now they have their own building and stuff, but at the time we were just sharing the college campus with them.
Wow.
And some of our classes, if I remember correctly, kind of counted for college credit. It was kind of wild. And going to that school, it was like a serious program. 4 hours a day of our was it 4 hours? Yeah, it was like 4 hours. We'd have our academics in the morning and then our art class. It was like this Spartan school for artists.
Wow. Okay.
So did that, and I guess I was always like kind of entrepreneurial from like that age, like 14.
I have a
always
lot
trying to
of
make a
questions
dollar.
about that. I have a lot of
Always.
questions about that. But I
Ask
want
away.
to take it back a notch because I read your article that Voyage LA did.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And you talk about a story that, I don't know, it's kind of seems happenstance, but sometimes it's like fate, sometimes destiny, about when your dad dropped you off somewhere. Like
With the
when you
Dr.
guys just
Seuss?
moved back, right? You had just moved back from in Sherman Oaks.
Yeah.
Can you tell that story? Because I think that's a pretty incredible story.
Is this the kids' art story? Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah. It's funny because I ended up working there for like a hot second. But
you did.
yeah, I took a free class at kids' art.
How old were you?
I must have been like 12 or 13. I was like 12 or 13, I want to say.
Okay.
And I took like one of those, it was like a sign-on class, like I didn't even end up taking classes there, but
Yeah.
it was like one of those classes, see what you can do. In fact, I don't even remember it as much as the years kind of go on, but I remember, essentially my dad remembers it really well because after like I did the little doodle or whatever, I guess there was someone there from Van Een Galleries. At the time, we didn't know who he was, but his name was Michael too. And he was just like so impressed with that work that I had done from kids art. And he said, "Oh, we're having like a thing for Dr. Seuss. Giselle is his 100th anniversary." And my dad's like, "Sure, like enter this into the competition." And it's one of those things. I think every parent has that proud story. And up until then, I hadn't won anything, to be honest. So
Okay.
I wasn't like an exceptional karate or sport athlete in that sense, where you get trophies or something. Make a long story short, this guy's like, "Yeah, you should come to this thing, da da da." We go to the thing and I took they did like,
You won first
third.
prize.
I won first prize in this thing, and it was so crazy. I mean, just the gift. It was like we got a giant cookie jar and like all these Dr. Seuss collectible memorabilia stuff. I think since then my parents broke it though, and that's wild. I mean, I don't even really think much about that story because the older I get, it's like it becomes so distant. Even though it was a very pivotal moment for my parents, I think that like, he should probably continue doing this.
But like, I know you say you don't remember as much, but when I read that in your article, I'm like, interesting. There was like Michael before the contest and Michael after the contest. Like, did you realize before that art was going to be your thing? Like, was it something
Now,
where
as an adult looking back,
yeah.
I kind of knew that. Like, I kind of know about myself now that I've always been like visually, there was something about the way I read things visually that was different. And I know that because my parents will not stop telling me about a test I took when I was even younger, that they were like, "Oh, we tested you and you're a bona fide genius." But it's like, you hear what your parents have to say and you're like, yeah, every parent thinks their child's a genius, but they like swear by it. I took like this test called the Bender Gestalt test.
Okay.
And it's a test. I do remember this test, funny enough, and it dates back prior to that story because it was just
Was this in Israel?
yeah, this was in Israel. And it's a test where they show you a series of images, and then based off the images you see, they give you another like booklet, and essentially they say draw the images that you saw. And word on the street, or this is the way my dad says it, because I don't, maybe he could pull up the results somewhere. Apparently I did really well on that test. And apparently, I don't know if no one, but I was one of the few people that got everything on the image right. And I don't want to say like I have a photographic memory, but obviously my visual sensibility to do well on that test must have been something good. And today, I mean, I teach people how to see, so it's kind of like my job now.
What do you mean I teach people how to see? What does that mean?
Most people don't know how to see, like look at art. They don't know what they're looking at. They have no way to approach it. I think they take seeing for granted in a way. It happens every day. I have conversations like this all the time.
I have so many questions.
You're like, what? Do I know how to see? No, you don't. No.
That's incredible. So it's interesting because like we talk about you recognizing, or your parents recognizing, you know, your artistic abilities when you were young, or that there was something different or special. So it seems that like they supported you through that endeavor and even tried to help you hone that talent.
They were definitely extremely supportive by not being non-supportive. And what I mean by that is that I think a lot of parents are not encouraging in that field. I think very quickly and early on, they were kind of like, oh, he's doing his own thing. We don't know how to support him anymore in it because like, what do we do?
Right.
So when I started like working the space you saw in 2014, really building out that space, that was like all me.
Yeah.
To the point where my parents, you know, there's no way for them to like financially risk getting involved in that. So if that crashed and burned,
Yeah.
that was going to be all on me.
Yeah. So I have a very short story I want to tell you, and I want to hear what your response would be to the situation. I have a niece who draws, and I think she's very talented, but you said, we all think, you know, our kids or our nieces have all this talent. And she's been drawing since she was like 5, I think. And I went to visit her in Florida a few months ago, and she said, oh, I don't draw anymore. I was like, what? You're like 14, 15. Like, you were drawing 2 months ago. And she said, well, my teacher told me it's not practical to be an artist, so I should stop wasting my time with drawing. And so I decided not to draw anymore because, you know, what's the point? And that's
why that person's a teacher.
Which we appreciate our teachers, but not that one. But I was dumbfounded, and I said, that is not true. I was like, look, not everybody makes it as an artist, you know? I said, but it doesn't mean that you can't specifically, you know, that you can't continue to hone your craft. And so I bring up this story because you talked beautifully about these two parts of like being able to, you know, see art for what it is, create art, but also be an entrepreneur and make money in the field of art. So it's kind of like a happy marriage between those three. And like, how did you marry those? Like, where does the entrepreneurial Michael
it doesn't
come
come from entrepreneurial. What I learned now is like, you got to give yourself the confidence to do what you want to do. And if someone's discouraging you from an early age to do what you think you want to do, or you don't know what you want to do, a lot of people don't know what they want to do, and that's fine. And you know, when you're in the educational system, a lot of it is failed in the sense that, and I'm not bagging on the educators per se, but if I hear my teacher or my professor is still having hopes to become a successful artist, then are they really a teacher or professor? Now, not to say that you can't do it both, you know, sure, but a lot of what I learned going to art school is a lot of the professors and teachers, if you will, are, I don't want to say failed, but artists that didn't see the success in the marketplace to the point where they were able to support themselves as a creative. So they got into teaching to supplement or, aid their practice.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're teaching someone, I don't think they teach this enough in school, is to give students like permission to fail. You fail, you don't go on. That's the problem with the school. But it's through those quote unquote failures you learn. So I've always, I never subscribed to those systems. And so the way I think is just very different, which I guess most people say is entrepreneurial, I guess, at that point.
Okay, so where did that seed come from?
I think one of the things I got to credit my father, I remember certain instances that I don't think he probably even remembers, but I remember there was like a parent school meeting with one of my teachers. I was doing terrible in history. And my dad, fashion-wise, clearly did not care what people thought of how he looked, It's already enough at that age, we're always scared our parents are going to embarrass us. I mean, my dad is the type of guy at the time, he probably doesn't even remember this, but he'd wear a leather jacket with shorts and Crocs.
Oh my goodness.
I mean, it was like a fashion fiasco. And I think he just genuinely did not care what people thought. And then when it got to this parent-teacher meeting, he wasn't mad that I was failing the class. He wasn't busting me like some parents, like it's parents and teacher ganging up on you. He was more mad at the teacher that you're failing him, not the other way around. Meaning I learned from that moment on that like he didn't know why he should be in that parents teacher meeting. What is he doing? His argument to the teacher was like, he's the one, like, this is your class. Like, where do I come in? What am I supposed to tell him to do his homework? You're failing as a teacher. And I think seeing that interaction, I said, oh, wow, like that gave me just confidence in myself. Interactions like that even the authority at the time, their opinion was not the end all be all. And it's tough because a lot of us get influenced by our environment. I was very lucky that from a young age, I started hanging around people that, whether I knew it at the time, were going to shape the person I was becoming.
Okay.
There's that saying, show me your friends, I'll show you your future. You hang around 5 idiots, you'll probably be the 6th. You hang around 5 winners, you'll be the, so there's these sayings, and that is very true. It is. That's why I can learn so much about people just based off who they hang out with.
Yeah. Did you have during that time where, because I want to talk about right before you opened on it, like the studio, or you had a place above, right?
Yeah, I had a spot.
Did you have any like mentors or guidance, or like what caused you to be like, I'm just going to take this risk and just go all in on this? Because you talked about in your story, like you were going to go to San Francisco.
I was attending San Francisco.
You were attending. Are you already attending?
And then it got to a point where, you're taking on student loans, and there was just no way I could I just genuinely couldn't afford the school. It's like $45,000 a year.
Yeah.
And I lost sight of why I was even going there. I think I was going there because at the time, every one of my friends, you finish high school, you go to college. You go to college, you get your BFA, and then some people go on to get their MFA. But it was like there was this idea of getting a bachelor's that was so important at the time. And what I did in college was like, I was like, you know what, in college I'm going to do really well. I'm going to take the classes seriously. I'm not going to do what I did in high school. The best thing I did was drop out. Yeah, drop out. I wish if there's one thing, not regret, but I could take back in time, was the time in college.
Really?
Yeah, definitely a waste of time. Especially the world as it changes today, how we get educated, and not to say I'm biased in it, because my brother, he took the extreme route. He's the polar opposite, And the cool thing, having a brother who went to an Ivy League, that was also kind of instrumental to see how
What Ivy League did your brother go to?
he went to Stanford. So here on one end,
Yeah. What does he do?
he's a doctor.
Oh, okay. Yeah, he went. I was like, he went all the way. I was like, what do you mean extreme?
Yeah, no,
He went
meaning like
all the way the other direction.
Meaning he would be seen as the one who went the academic route. I mean, obviously you have to go to college to become a professional like that, but even seeing my brother, he's not one to boast about his education. And what taught me about the value of it is that other people care about it more than he does. So we can talk about like, oh, you Stanford, smart guy. Like it's the perception of it. I remember my brother would tell me there's a whole bunch of idiots who go here. I'm like, those idiots are smarter idiots than the ones that don't go, right? Or you think so. But it just shows they're just these institutions. And once in a while, my brother and I, we when we were younger, we'd go head to head a lot. There was a lot of clashing. As we got older, we can have more kind of sober, intellectual conversations.
Yeah.
But it's interesting because the older you get, the more past it's like, you're not looking at a piece of paper that you got. Like it that's why I say that story is becoming distance. Just how like I'm reminded how long ago college and that was in my life. I've just done so much more.
Yeah.
To the point where it's
so
like
you dropped out after the first year.
After the first year, yeah.
And then how did MRG get birthed into this world?
So that was like, well, I was still doing MRG prior to that,
right,
in high school.
Okay, the space above.
Yeah, I had that in high school,
Okay.
And so what happened was that went on pause. Went to college, trying to figure that out. Too expensive. Drop out. Go to Santa Monica Community College.
I read that. I didn't know. I went there too.
Yeah, I went to SMC. And I was like, all right, I'm going to do probably another 2 years here. Did that for a minute. The timeline's so weird with it because I was doing so much while I was still in school as well.
Okay.
So school is like really blurry to me because it was definitely not my priority while doing it. I was pretty much going to Santa Monica to receive the financial aid. That was about it. So I was like, let me get 12 classes as much as I can, use that financial aid, bought a car, was living with my aunt. I was doing a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
There was like a lot of stuff that like we'd have to have like a 10-hour podcast to go under it. But there's just like so much stuff. The highlight reel is like kind of crazy.
It's interesting because the name of my podcast is The Power of Ambition, and everything you're talking about is so ambitious. Like, and I was like, how do I ask Michael this question? Because it's like, what is ambition versus like motivation versus inspiration? And I feel like it's different because it's like this desire to achieve something really great.
I don't think it was ambition for me though. It was drive, I think. I was just driven. I was driven to do something more. I think one of the greatest things, whether my parents or not, like my parents gave as much as they can. They're very supportive in that sense, but being one of 6, there's just truly not enough to go around in the sense like my brother got a full ride to Stanford. Like there was just like the bar was set high that you need to do something for yourself. This is just not going to come easy.
Yeah.
Things still don't come easy in that sense. And it's like, you got to learn. And I was always, though, kind of out there to just find the best people. And I was doing everything to just get ahead of whatever I had. I still sometimes to this day, I don't have like, let's say a clear picture of what it is.
Okay. And we'll get into ArtMatcher and your podcast in a bit.
Yeah, no, for sure.
But I want to talk about, do you remember your first show at MRG? Like, I know you told me the story several times and your mom's told me the story too, because I adore her.
And 17, untitled, unrestricted. Gosh, it's so sad that I can't remember the names. I just had a show on Friday.
Yeah. No, I didn't expect you to remember the names, but
it was called Welcome to the Matrix. No, I mean, you got to understand, there's been so many shows, like so many. We're in the hundreds. It's in the hundreds.
Yeah.
Of shows. I mean,
I've attended most of them.
You've attended a lot of them. You did a poetry thing at them. We had Music Mondays. I mean, I was doing anything to stick. To give people a grasp, when I moved down into the studio that I had first and last month's rent. There was like, I had a lot of people helping me initially, and this is actually a kind of a learning lesson. You know, a lot of the people who you start with, you're probably not going to end with. And the biggest thing at the time was, I think why a lot of people fell off is they felt they were building my vision and not theirs. And to me, I just wanted to build something that everyone can benefit from. I mean, till today, I mean, I've helped hundreds of artists and stuff sell their first pieces, have their first show. You know, I lost sight of my own art. And like now it's just coming back full circle 15 years later.
Yeah.
Where it's coming back to where it kind of started.
Yeah.
And initially, I think why I wanted the gallery is because I understood that that was an avenue of how you sell artwork.
Yeah, and I want to go into the concept of that because I feel like MRG, from my experience, was like, for me, it was this little place in Sherman Oaks of art. Because all the other art galleries I went to, I kind of felt intimidated.
Yeah, very
like I would
intimidating.
walk in, I'd be like, I felt like I wasn't supposed to be there. But I love art so much. And so I remember I went to your gallery. There's like wine being served, and there was kind of like a buzz in the air, you know, like for that, especially the first couple years before I moved to New York. And there was just like this buzz, and you're popping around talking to everybody, and there's music, and it was just such a fun time. And then in the middle of it, you get to talk to the actual artist, and they explain, you know, like, what did you think about it? And then you get to talk about like why they did it. Or sometimes they wouldn't even tell you, like, nope, it's up to your interpretation. Like, I'm not going to tell you.
Yeah, I wish I documented the process more. I mean, now today, kind of thinking about it,
Yeah, like tell us what that first year was like.
it was brutal. I mean, we were sleeping in the gallery at some point.
What do you mean?
No, I mean, there were long nights. I mean, setting up the shows, building out the physical space. I remember one time it was me and two of my buddies, and we essentially chipped away the whole floor because we wanted to see what was underneath. And the concrete was just hideous. And we had to stain it, the walls, building the walls. Financially, you're just trying to figure out, how am I going to make it? You know, you're trying to make a sale. You don't know anyone with money. I'm still trying to develop. I remember I sold a piece for like $5,000. And at that age, you're just like, it's a big chunk. I mean, it's a chunk of money today.
Yeah.
You give someone a $5,000 today. So what was going through my head is, oh, wow, you know, you get that and you're like, someone believes in this. This is working. And once again, it seems so far away because I think the key to it is you just got to try so many things.
Yeah.
There was so much trial. We were trying everything, art lessons, just anything.
You did art lessons there too?
We had flyers where, you know, just like, how do you serve the community? How do you run a business? Till today, I mean, I still figure out, I learn a lot about whether it's accounting, starting a DBA, LLC. I mean, just like, there's so much stuff that you have to be like, I had the maturity to be an adult in terms of like, okay, I got to take care of it. My dad was there to assist me on certain stuff in terms of like, I went to him about like the DBA, but he didn't even know. He didn't know.
You just figured it out.
He just, you know, it's weird when you go to your parents and they're like the all knowing, and then you get to an age you're like, I don't know. Don't know. I think it's a big compliment when you know you've surpassed your parents' intellect.
Yeah.
I think they've done what they need to do as a parent if you've gone there. And that I felt happened at a very young age for me. And it just kept busy. I mean, I think about it now, and I'm glad there was like pure intention there. I mean, every show I was trying to do, I was trying to make it the best it could be for whatever it was.
Yeah.
And I try not to lose sight of that, because all the other stuff, it's a byproduct of that.
So how do you think that your vision for MRG has changed throughout the years since then? Like, what was your initial vision? Was to serve the community?
My initial vision was to serve myself initially, to help myself in the sense of like, I'm an artist. I want to show my stuff. I quickly learned that was going to work. It wasn't going to work in the sense that I'm going to put all my stuff in this space that I'm paying for, that I'm kind of doing. But that's when I got my friends involved. They said, oh, how about you bring some of your art? Because I understood that people were either going to love my stuff or hate it. I mean, today, it's funny, a lot of the work I do right now, a lot of people don't like it. And luckily, I'm in a position of strength where I have a good mental stability of like, I don't care whether someone likes it or not, but I have channels to distribute it and sell it.
Yeah.
Gosh, I mean, figuring that out early on is really hard. And you need to get lucky. I mean, I worked so hard to get lucky. That's my whole motto.
No such thing as luck, just hard work and dedication.
It's not, because you could be working hard as hell in something. And the reason why I say I work so hard to get lucky is like, you work hard enough, you do something long enough, you figure out things enough, luck will turn on your side, in terms of there'll be something instrumental that propels you to where you need to go. And even now, I feel like I haven't even hit it yet.
Interesting, because I know a lot of people would say, like, you're a successful art gallery owner, and that's all I see is Michael Goodman. You're successful in the art world, Like, what's your vision for MR? I mean, that's my view. That's other people that I know, their view of you. And so
it's interesting how I get inspired by some people and what they define as success.
Right. Yeah.
And it really hit me, actually. I think this was a year ago, where this young kid came up to me. I'm like in my car doing a million things, and I have the windows rolled down. They pull up. It's like a young kid, and I think there were some other people in the car. And they're like, hey, man, nice car. And I'm like, in the thing when you hear something where you don't know if someone's speaking to you?
Yeah.
I turn over, I kind of glance over, and they're just like ecstatic. And he asked me like, hey, what do I got to do to get a car like that? And in my head, so many things were like, wait, this is not a car. Like, this doesn't mean anything. I could be driving, like, I'm humble enough. I'm like, I could be in a Honda 92, but it's weird how that's what sparked the interaction. And I think I told him, just follow your dreams. And he we drove past our ways. I said, wow, like, a material item like that could be someone, I don't think it should be anyone's goal, but like, it's interesting. I don't take away what people get inspired by, but the level of what we think success is, it kind of fascinates me. The art world has definitely made me a little bit jaded. Because you're exposed to things financially that you go, wow, some people really have certain luxuries that other people probably couldn't even dream of.
Yeah.
And so that, to me, and being exposed to that has really helped me to actually stay grounded. Because the problems most people have, they run deeper than financial. And I've always heard this from my father, it's better to be miserable with money than without it. But, a lot of this stuff, there's certain stuff money can't buy, like love and family and certain stuff like that. So as cliche as it sounds, it's like, it's really helped me to be grounded in that sense.
Yeah.
And I'm still trying to find that success, like whatever that is. I guess that's what keeps me driven.
Yeah.
Yeah, my podcasts are just audio, so I don't have to worry about.
Well, since I am a visual filmmaker, I mean,
I
for
love
me,
it.
I need both.
I love it. I mean, I'm very interested in media now, and in
media?
in
Yeah.
visual media, putting together. I love podcasts. I love. Ideally, I think the coolest thing about this medium is, when you get to know someone, when you get to see the exchange of ideas in this medium, and whether it's in a living room or in a setting, it seems like a medium that people can resonate well with.
Yeah.
Because I watch a lot of podcasts and I like to see the visuals. I watch like podcasts with Bobby Lee and other people that I just am fond of. And it's interesting when people get certain guests and stuff get heated and people start talking about things.
Yeah.
The art podcast that I have, I'm always trying to push, like, how do you create art, like a podcast that's interesting? Because when I hear an academic podcast, boring, like you sleep. I mean, I think what makes this medium so interesting is how you can entertain people.
Yeah.
Not that you're trying to but like naturally it could be entertaining if the right people are talking about. Like, you can ask me any art question about any art piece and I will have probably a very strong leaning opinion on something.
Which makes for good entertainment.
It's interesting. It makes for maybe good sound bites, but what's fascinating to me is how can someone not have an opinion on something?
It's highly possible. And
Like you could have an opinion that I'm indifferent, I don't know because I'm not informed. That's still an opinion on something.
True.
But to play, like I used to have a friend, I used to call him Switzerland because he never had an opinion on any. Like, it's like neutral. He doesn't want to offend anyone.
Yeah.
And I feel like art that is offensive, like that's good art to me. Like, and what I mean offensive is like something that
It
is
invokes
going to,
something.
It invokes
a feeling.
something. I used to say some art is so bad that it makes me mad, but it's so good at the same time. It's like, I don't want to deal with this, but I have to deal with it because it's so bad.
Okay, so that reminds me of a question I wrote down because my notebook's, I don't know where my notebook.
It's right behind you.
I was like, it's somewhere over here. Do you have a favorite artist that you...
I get asked that all the time. Hell no, I don't have
like
a
a top three. You have to have a top three.
I don't have a favorite. I was just talking to someone. I don't even idolize like...
Or like a piece you would buy and put in your
There's a lot of pieces...
There's a lot of pieces
I like, that I could like and have a moment. I'm an art junkie, so I have a bunch of pieces sitting in a closet right now that I can't even hang. So before we could even talk about a piece that I can hang up, like visually, I'm not where I'm at yet to have the mecca I want to build. So when I do build that house, like no doubt it's going to be the sickest, like whatever art collector before me, squat on them, squash. Because I already know it's going to be like badass.
Yeah, I could see that.
So I'm waiting for the correct time to create that shrine.
All right, invite me to the party.
No, it'll be epic. I already know. Like I've visualized it. I've dreamt about it many times. So
you've dreamt about it.
Yeah, kind of like you. Maybe I'm getting more into that manifestation stuff, but it's like, I think about like, okay, let's say someone gave me this place, right?
Okay.
I'm someone wherever I'm at, I try and make the best of whatever the situation could be. In the spot I am right now, the best it could be is that the art is not shown. The art is so good that the space doesn't do it justice. So it must wait. That's my thought process. Now, I've turned my space into now what I'm doing right now with it is I'm interested in creating artist residencies. So we take places where artists can work, like an apartment, create a studio they could live, eat. And I want to get more into this, like understanding, like, documenting that process. If someone documented probably when I was building MRG, that would have been a reality TV show. I mean, it was wild. Amazing. I mean, the stuff that we had to do. And when I talk about doing, I had a furniture shop that I was helping a buddy with. There was so many things to do to just try and turn a dollar. And when you have a business, you have to be just so hungry to the business and you have to be loyal to the business. And so I kind of salute people that get to a point where you get to employ people, hire people. That's their livelihood. And, they're building towards the business. I do strongly believe now I understand that not everyone can be a business person.
Definitely not.
Some people are meant to lead, some people are meant to follow, and that's fine. I understand that dynamic. It's just tough being in a leadership position sometimes because there's so much stuff potentially depending on you. And I'm not talking about like a selfish leader, just someone who's really trying to, you're responsible for a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
In the art business, it's fascinating because you're not really responsible. It's like galleries are hard to scale. Like if I get hit by a bus tomorrow, it's like MRG I am MRG, you are the brand.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a personal brand thing. And some galleries get to the point they have so much finance, they could become an institution. Like Gagosian.
Is that your vision for MRG?
No. I think, and the crazy thing is, my vision was never to be like anyone else. Like you could take from what someone else is doing pretty successfully and say, oh, I'm going to implement that into my life. But no, I never, no.
No. Okay.
No.
It sounds like your vision for MRG is like cultivating other artists. And that's...
The dream was always to create a platform, like just a way for artists to access the market. And that's what, segueing into ArtMatcher, which is more scalable, that's what interests me, is like, how do you get an artist into the market? How do you get them aware? A lot of it is, being an artist is being your own boss. It's tough. It's being an entrepreneur in a way, and creatives, as we know, are not the best business kind of
Why
people.
do you think that is? Because I kind of have an opinion on that.
Because they're selfish.
Because they're selfish?
They got egos. They're crazy.
Okay, potentially.
They're eccentric. They're just...
Yeah.
I have a PhD in artist. And
do you think it's just that they don't... Do you think there's the cliche of like the starving artist has been so widely accepted? Once someone's like, I'm an artist, they just don't want to put in the effort to learn the other side, and it's not actually true. It's just a cliche they bought into.
It has a weird stigma too. I think like let's say you go on a date, segueing into romance, and someone says, I'm an artist. Sometimes like, It's like hearing like when someone tells you here in LA they're an actor. And that's
why I say filmmaker.
Filmmaker, but you're like filmmakers. And within the filmmaking community, you're like, oh, even then, like,
well, filmmaker is definitely perceived a lot different.
Yeah,
than
a lot
actor.
different than actor.
Yeah,
but it's weird. Like, why? Where does that come from? And it's weird because at the top, when you do make it, you're wildly successful in any of these disciplines. There's plenty of artists I can name. They're not hurting at all. They're living, caviar, Grey Poupon, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
But, I think the stigma starving artist is, I think a lot of people don't give themselves permission to go after their dreams. And so that's where the starving, like, if you go after your dreams, you're probably going to starve. And that's true. You should starve.
A little.
A little. No, I think that's, and then you rise from that and you create something exceptional.
Well, you're starting because you're making sacrifices.
It's kind of messed up in the visual arts. It's very political though in the visual arts.
Yeah.
Most of the successful artists come from a lot of money, and it's because they could ponder and enjoy the luxuries of that because their parents were able to. But can you fault that generation for working hard to make it easier for their next generation?
You can't, but I downloaded ArtMatcher last night.
Okay.
And I was scrolling through there because, as you know, I'm a big fan of art. I only have one piece so far.
We're going to grow that collection.
And I didn't buy it. It was given to me.
It's hanging in your wall.
But luckily, I have a lot of friends who are very talented people.
A lot of creatives.
But I was flipping through and I was like, oh, some of these pieces is within my range because I thought that was a really cool feature. You can pick your range, and then it shows you art that's not in your range, but that's fine. Like, you can aspire. And I was like, wow, this is a really cool thing, because what you're talking about and what I'm talking about is I disagree that you need to be a starving artist, because I worked finance for years and I worked both sides of my brain. And I think that we put it up to the cliche, like, well, I just can't do it because I'm an artist, or I just can't do it because I'm just left brain or right brain. And I think ArtMatch might, I don't know, it might be onto something.
Well, it's interesting. It goes back to, no one has to starve at anything. The question
Right.
is, are you dedicated? Look, if an artist knows, it goes back to self-awareness to me.
Yes.
If I know I suck at business and I'm self-aware to know that I'm not good at this, you find people who are.
Yes.
And the really successful artists get that. They're like, hey, look, you're good at business. You're good at selling. I'll create something for you to sell. And they have these other conversations. I used to say the top artists are really good business people. And good business people will have self-awareness. There's certain qualities. And I think a lot of artists stay in this domain where they're not self-aware. They tap into whether it's ayahuasca, drugs, or just all these things. And the cool thing is art, visual art, you can look at it from so many different lenses.
Yeah.
You can look at it purely aesthetically, conceptually. There's just so many ways to look at it. There's no wrong way of looking at it.
Right.
And collecting, there is a misconception that you have to have a lot of money to collect art, and that's not true. I mean, if I'm an artist and that piece, your friend's going to gift it to you or sell it to you, if your friend's like, hey, I'll sell you this piece for $50, you can afford that.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a ton of art that people could afford, and it's cumulatively how you could be supporting artists. So you can be going to downtown LA art walk every month, buying a couple pieces, $50, $100, $1,200 a year, and you have 12 pieces of art in your home.
Yeah.
Chances are you continue doing that for several years. Don't be shocked when you have a piece that's worth a ton of money, because
Because that artist blows up or something.
No, those artists are. Everyone's trying to make it. We're trying to be known. We're trying to, put our ideas out there. But the most important thing is you bought that art because you liked it, you could afford it, and you saw value in it.
Yeah. So if I'm an artist and I've been painting and I want to get on ArtMatcher as an artist,
Completely free
for the artist as
for
well.
everyone.
Really?
It's free. Everything's free.
Okay.
And that's what makes it so great. It's like the Tinder of the art world.
So how do I contact you? Like, hey, I have this art and I want to put it up to see if someone will buy it.
So
And
me
how do
being
you
a
assess the value?
For me, being a gallerist for so long, I understand the number one successful thing for galleries is relationships. So we're in the relationship business with ArtMatcher in the sense that we want to connect you with the people you should be connected with. So if you have a collector's profile and our machine learning algorithm learns about you and we think you should meet Todd, who's an abstract expressionist, we're not getting involved in the transaction. We're just saying, hey, you and Todd should talk. And naturally, if our machine learning gets it right, you're like, oh, wow, I didn't even know that I'm just an abstract expressionist junkie, let's say, or like I like street art. We're going to connect you with those people. And that's the key. And you might be like, loved his art, hate him as a person, don't want to buy his art anymore. That could happen. Or Todd may be like, hey, I don't really sell my art, but I can link you up with my representative who does.
Okay.
So we're just about getting the conversation.
That's pretty cool. And then you have these like little fun fact things in between. I thought were fun.
Yeah, we're working on the educational program.
Yeah.
The app is constantly being developed in terms of how we're adding on it. I think the camera maybe have paused right now, but we're constantly trying to make something an enjoyable process for people.
It's not 100%. I guess we're going to just have one angle because that's all the batteries I have.
No worries. I mean, it's weird, when
That's so strange.
I think the same camera, and
this is the first time it's ever happened.
it's weird. I have mine plugged in while it's shooting because
I might have
sometimes,
to do that.
yeah, no, it's a process you learn on it, but
Well, good thing for the trusty old iPhone 13
iPhone
on
controlling
4K.
Apple controlling the world. But
yeah, I'm sorry, you were saying?
Yeah, the app is essentially, we want to educate people. If they have the education and then they build the confidence to do stuff with ArtMatcher, That's what it's about, building a community. So we're connecting gallerists with artists, gallerists with collectors, collectors with artists, collectors with gallerists.
Almost like including the middleman, but cutting them out at the same time.
There'll always be room for a middleman.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the reason why is when you start to build something, you scale, you just need people to help you.
Yeah.
No one builds anything great alone. That's just not how it works.
Yeah.
And if there's some advice that I would give people in the art world is find people to build with you in any business. Mm-hmm. Look, you had a friend earlier before we jumped on this. They were helping you on how to figure out these mics. What would you do without a person like that? You know, you get people, and the nice part is if you're nice, you have a great demeanor, you have naturally attract people. People want to work with you. They want to come out, support what you're doing. That's like the key to everything. And I think with art, the crazy thing, if I'm teaching people about how to see art, is expose yourself to everything so you could better understand what you're looking at. You know, there might be a reference for you as a filmmaker that you see in a piece of art that kind of tickles your fancy and you go, wow, I like this piece because it's referencing something I love.
Yeah.
And maybe that's the art you're going to buy.
Mm-hmm. And that's why I go to art galleries, because it incites or ignites something. Like I have a few poems I wrote that turned into like pieces because I saw a piece of art and it like made me think of a phrase, and then I wrote that phrase and then it turned like to a whole thing. No,
that's awesome. I love that. I think it's moments like that where we grow and we think about things, we create things. I'm excited for ArtMatcher, for me as a creative, to be on there.
Yeah. What's your vision for it, like long term? Like where do you see it going?
I think the main vision for us is our mission in it is to change the culture of art.
Okay. From what to what?
Well, right now, one of the things the system is broken is like you're not the first one to say it's intimidating to go in an art gallery.
Yeah.
So if we're matching you with the gallerist that are for you, there's no more intimidation process, because that gallerist will reach out to you and be like, hey, Nicole, we see that, you're matched with one of our artists. You should come by the space. Now you're like, oh, snap, I'm invited. I'm going to go to their opening. I'm going to do this. I'm going to go to that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's amazing the thousands of people I've met in the art industry. And a lot of my openings, even this last opening that I had, there's 400 people. Probably most of the people didn't even know who I was. And this is just, maybe some people have met me in passing and stuff. They had no idea, like, who was the, conductor. And it's an interesting thing, kind of navigating behind the scenes and behind the curtain, if you will.
Are you going to have, I think before I met you and found MRG, like I used to want to go to art shows, but I didn't know where to find them. And so are you going to have
found, that's why. They don't want to be found.
That's highly possible. Are you going to have a section on the app to like steer people towards certain openings that are happening?
Yeah, so we're going to, in the connections area, after you have a certain amount of swipes, you could look at like fairs, programming, and then when you look at who we're connecting you with, I mean, all those people, it's fair game. Once you're connected, you could start a conversation with them.
Find out when things are happening.
Yeah, absolutely.
Nice. So I started a podcast. You started a podcast. What is your podcast about?
So I have the ArtMatcher podcast, which I'm the host of.
Right. Oh, it's the app
That's a separate
and the podcast.
And then I had a stream my sister was helping me on, which is called Keep It Transparent.
Keep It Transparent?
Yeah. And essentially it's just me being raw and just the way I am. Unfiltered. Taking like kind of like a Joe Rogan approach.
Okay.
I've always told, like, I'm just someone, like, I feel like I'm so comfortable with who I am that I wouldn't want to change. I think a lot of people, it's interesting who you see who they are.
Yeah.
Like some people are just really good actors, and it's that's a skill in itself.
You mean like in life?
Yeah, I'm a terrible actor.
But what's your podcast about? Like where can they find it? What can they expect to hear if they go to your podcast?
The ArtMatcher, we're on all the kind of platforms. I just tell people Spotify for ArtMatcher. The next one isn't live. We're still in the generation of content because we were streaming it. We weren't recording anything. It was like practice. This thing takes like practice to do these things.
Wait, so you're going to stream a live podcast now?
No, we were streaming. It wasn't a podcast yet. The Keep It Transparent was a streaming. We would jump on. My sister was a streamer, so she was constantly streaming. You're building engagement. All of that's live. And I think now some streamers post their stuff because they're recording it as well, but a lot of it is you're there live in the stream.
Okay. So, but that's different. That's the Keep It Transparent.
That's different. I mean, I got to get a setup like this where I got cameras rolling, ring lights, and I think so many people are used to knowing that things are a little bit orchestrated too.
Yeah, I think so.
I think that's so fascinating with film.
I love it. It's very, film is so different than this. It gets even more complicated.
Oh yeah, no, the over the shoulder. And,
yeah, that's my playfield.
I'm so glad to be on here though, and talking to you and catching up and.
Yeah, I want to. I don't know. I feel like we haven't. I want to get more, like, personal with you.
You want to ask questions that you've never asked before.
Yes. Like,
what do you want to ask?
Okay, so I have a question, and I just think this would be interesting for everyone. I don't know if
What do I identify as?
No. I don't know if this is accurate or not, but were you in the military?
No, I wasn't.
You weren't. So you never got, because I know that typically you have to serve.
No, I left before I could get my note that I was going to be serving. So you get that note, I think, at like 15 and a half or 16. So I was already here in the States by then.
Okay. Got it.
Yeah.
Yeah, if I know the art is conceptual and it's complicated and it's hard and you grind, but like for all those kids out there who are like, but I just want to be an artist, like, do you have like a step?
You know,
like,
my first step I would tell them?
What would you tell them?
Is get really good at it. Get good at something. And you have to stick with it, because if your friend was deterred by a professor,
my niece,
or a teacher, your niece, right? Maybe that's all it took to like push her from not doing it. And maybe that wasn't for her. Being an artist, you got to be so strong. You know, you really do. And if I could talk to your niece and she says, hey, I really do enjoy it, I'd say continue. Do it.
Yeah, well, after I had that conversation with her, she said, I still want to do it then. And
Absolutely.
Then she kept drawing.
She should be making, filming, TikToking. Today, the game has changed. You can build your community and your community will support you. You don't have to wait for anyone.
Yeah.
The things the way they work, it's you got to build a community and the community supports each other.
Yeah.
You know? I come on this podcast because I want to support you. I rock with what you're doing. And I think the coolest thing about that is, you know, in time, you can kind of see this community you've built of people. Like some people are like, how do you know everyone? I'm like, I've been doing it for like 15 years. You stick around for something long enough.
Yeah.
Eventually things come in due time. I didn't know that until now. Yeah. I have an assistant. He's a really great guy. He's helping me with the show. And he never knows what I'm going to pay him because I don't tell him.
But, Matt?
Yeah, Matt.
Oh, I love Matt.
Yeah, Matt's great. And, you know, he's just, gosh, I mean, he doesn't know this yet, but I'm like, man, you are so lucky, bro. If I had someone like me doing what I'm doing he doesn't even know it yet, but, you know, it's that he's going to have a rich, robust, and, you know, everywhere I refer him, I get him a gig here, good this. It's like, you gotta.
His art is on the ArtMatcher.
Yeah, absolutely.
I saw one piece and I was like, ooh, I like that one.
Yeah, he's a really, really
he's so talented.
Kid. Super talented.
So it's like, get good at what get good at your art.
I tell Matt every day, stay in the studio, paint, make art.
Yeah.
His mom was talking about, what are you doing going to college? I was like, no, just make art, create. I mean, in any discipline, it really is. You got to create content. I have no excuse for myself. I got to be painting, making artwork if I want to say something.
I want to change the direction a little bit.
Okay.
Because I feel like there's something a little bit unseen that's going on here. And it's that your confidence in yourself. Where you're like, if someone tells me, I don't care if they don't like it. Like, where does that come from? And what can people do to build that? Or was it just there? Like,
I think it's weird. I was on a little episode, Keeping Up with the Kardashians, very small.
Wait a
by
minute.
50
I think I saw a clip of that. Was it with Scott?
with Scott Disick.
Okay.
And I didn't even think they were going to air the episode, but they aired it. And my mail lady at the time comes to me and is like, oh my gosh, I saw you on Keeping Up with the Kardashians. And it was like, she had seen me in a whole new light, as if I was a different person. Because up until now, she was just like, here's your mail, da da da. And she was excited to give me my mail.
Interesting.
And I was just happy she was nicer after that, right? Because our relationship had changed. But I got my first piece of hate mail.
Stop it.
And the tears of
like
joy.
little mail?
Like email.
Okay.
The tears of joy that came from me was like amazing, because they really got me, because it was a lengthy email.
Really?
And it was just like, wow, bam, like smash. I framed it. I could actually probably find it and read it.
Okay, read it to me after.
Okay. I got to frame that somewhere. And I was like, wow, this is what it feels like to make it. When someone, there was a saying by a famous soccer player named Zlatan, when he makes his haters love him, like they love him. And you just got to really not be oblivious to the noise that's around you, but you got to so many people are bothered by certain things.
Like what?
ArtMatcher, for instance, we give data of how many people like and dislike your work as an artist profile. Mm-hmm. My work is probably the most not liked work in the app, because it's one of the first images that you see. We had to put some work, so my work's up there. And that to me reassures me that I'm doing something right. And I think we've been skewed that if people like it, that it's more important. And the most important thing is that you like it. You do what you want to do. And I've always been really good at doing what I want to do. And that confidence comes from just reminding myself that my voice is the important voice in the narrative of it. So,
it's your art, it's your expression.
Yeah, you can't be wrong with it. So if someone dislikes it, and I think so many artists, they were in every discipline, we need validation, whatever. I don't, because I know my stuff sells. So it's validated to someone.
So but did you always feel that way? Or was there a time, or did you have to build that? Or was there a time where you were self-conscious about it?
I think there was a time when I was younger, there's just lack of maturity, when you're younger. But you grow
what's younger for you? 12?
At the tender age of 11, I knew. Started reading Kafka and poetry. No, yeah, it's a process. Even now, when I dial back on how I take constructive criticism, you gotta welcome that stuff.
Yeah. How do you handle constructive criticism? How should someone handle it?
One, identify who's giving the constructive criticism. Is this person an authority? When I get in an argument with someone with something I'm an expert in, and I'm telling them this is not up for debate, and they go, well, they're showing confidence. It's you gotta size certain things properly. And I think the way you do it is just, here's a really good experiment that could help everyone.
Okay.
I don't get political. I normally don't talk about religion, because that kind of, rallies people up. It rallies them.
Yeah.
So if you're an extreme on one end or the other, this little exercise is great for you. You find the other extreme and just listen to everything they have to say without cutting it off all the way. And that will change dramatically. I know it'll help people.
Yeah, I actually just read about that recently, that the main reason arguments start is because one person or the other doesn't feel like they're being listened to. And if you just let someone talk without interrupting, and if they feel listened to, then they'll more openly respond or listen to what you have to say next.
Yeah,
Not always, but
I've been known for trampling over people. It's just like, I don't know, you just have to. I think the biggest thing is you got to believe in yourself. I've gotten to a point where it's just like, I'm so not bothered by like certain people's like opinions
yeah.
in that sense.
Yeah.
I'm just, I wake up every day like, how can I be a better version of myself? And I am my own consultant in that sense, meaning I get to decide what type of version I want to be. Do I want to be mad at the world? Do I want to be sad?
Yeah.
And I'm human. There's days I don't feel like doing anything. I want to be an ass. So just be an ass, whatever, do it. Do you?
Yeah. You know what? The next guest I want to have on is Michael Goodman. What?
Unfiltered.
Unfiltered. What was the name of the?
Keep it transparent.
We'll have Michael Goodman keep it transparent on next time.
No, but it you know why it relates
and we'll probably get a lot more.
There's a reason why I'm in the arts, because the arts, you can talk about all those things.
Yeah.
They're all there.
That's true.
When I tell people, like, it's funny, I was doing segments where people are showing me anything. I could look at this table and put it in a different context, take off the top, frame it up, put it in a museum. You're going to think it's $1 million piece.
Oh, yeah. This is a really antique table, actually.
Yeah. So, but I'm saying the way you present something, the way, it's fascinating how we're influenced.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, one of the things I tell people, if they're going to try and do something, find those people you want to be like and try and access them. And if you can't get them, get the tier underneath them. And if you can't get them, the tier under that, and you just build up.
Yeah.
I mean, it's amazing seeing us grow together, like seeing, where you started, where you're at now. And I'm sure we're going to catch up even after the podcast. But I mean, congrats on doing this. And I can't wait to just be a fan too and start listening.
I'm excited about that too. As I
you
build
need
more
drama
episodes.
though. I need drama. I love drama podcasts. I love heat. I like spicy. I like
the
my
first
food.
one has a little bit more drama. My very first episode, my friend.
Your first one, no.
Yeah, my first one. She's a professional football player, and we talk about some fun.
But if
stuff.
anyone has any questions, we're available. ArtMatcher, you can hit me up.
Yeah, I'm gonna put all the
accessible
links
person.
in the description on YouTube where they can find you. And if you want to see the, I keep calling it unfiltered Michael Goodman, but it's the other term you just used. What is
keeping
it?
Keeping it transparent.
Keeping it transparent. I keep calling it unfiltered Michael.
That's due to come out. But even on like just different podcasts that I've done, it's interesting because I'm me, and I always want people to know, and I hope it gets to a point where I'm always accessible. And I understand that kind of the bigger you get, the more you have to create your boundaries and stuff.
Yeah.
But for the most part, if someone's willing to put the work in to get to me, I'm pretty responsive in that sense.
Yeah. So if you're an artist.
If you're an artist, I'll tell you a quick story. Just because I do not respond the first time, it doesn't mean for you to give up. And I cannot tell you, I'm not going to say how many artists have done that and they've pushed through. And that just tells me as a person they really wanted it.
Yeah.
And there's times I've rejected people and they're relentless. And I say, you know what? This person's freaking successful. Like, they're making me bend.
Yeah.
They're having me deal with them. So
there's a lot of power in that.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for joining me.
Thank you.
We're gonna read the hate
email
after now.
What?
So we're gonna go read the hate email now.
The hate email. Yeah, no, that's a good one. Gotta pull it up.
And so you can find ArtMatcher on Apple or
Google Play or
Play,
the App Store.
The App Store. Check out the podcast.
Check out the podcast.
And maybe go to one of his shows.
Yes, we have the next show, which is hopefully going to be October 1st. Okay. It's called A Woman's Perspective, Empowering the Female Vision, 100 female artists. I cannot say much about it because it's going to crash the world.
But it already sounds amazing.
Yeah, it is amazing.
I'm in.
It's part 2 because I already did part 1.
When was part
5 years
one?
ago.
5 years ago?
Yeah.
Was
5
I
years
there?
ago.
Probably.
14 female artists it started with.
I think I was there.
Now it's going to be 100.
100?
100 female artists.
All right.
Yeah, no,
It's
it's
a
going to be
good
intense. And maybe we'll do another podcast before that show. So
Yeah, that would be fun.
that's going to have a juicy topic.
Well, thank you for joining us, and I'll
Thank
see you
you,
next
Nicole.
week.